In Assassin's Creed Unity, we are thrust into the middle of what is considered by many as the most influential and bloody revolution in human history, the French Revolution. But what sparked such a violent and bloody uprising? Why did the revolution take such a dark turn during the Reign of Terror? And what effect did this historic event have on the rest of Europe and the world? To find these answers, we have to go back to 18th century France during a time of great turmoil and change. My name is Matt Black. Join me as we dive into the past and discover the true history of the French Revolution. At the end of the 18th century, France was a broken nation. The country was on the edge of bankruptcy, caused by their involvement in the 7 Years' War, the American Revolution, and the extravagant spending of the monarch King Louis XVI and his predecessors. There was unrest in the streets of France. 2 decades of poor harvest, drought, diseases, inflated bread prices, and heavy taxes hurt many of the poor citizens of France, forcing many into rioting, looting, and stealing. The poor continued to suffer as the wealthy hoarded, lived lavishly, and did nothing to provide any relief. France was a powder keg, ready to blow. In order to change the course France was on, King Louis XVI was advised to put into place a new tax package that would include a land tax that even the nobility and clergy would have to pay. To implement these new taxes, for the first time since 1614, King Louis XVI summoned the Estates General, an assembly consisting of the 3 estates of France: the clergy, the nobility, and the middle class. The meeting was scheduled for May 5th, 1789. The lead up to the meeting was filled with debates, as the Third Estate represented 98% of the population of France, but could still be outvoted by the other 2 estates. The Third Estate wanted votes counted by head and not by status. As the date of May 5th, 1789 drew closer, their support continued to grow. When the Estates General met on May 5th, the debate had turned the 3 estates against each other, as none of the sides budged and no changes were made. On June 17, 1789, the Third Estate split off and started the National Assembly, inviting others from the estates to join them to conduct the nation's affairs. On June 20th, they gathered in the tennis court just outside Versailles and made an oath to agree not to separate until France had a constitution. By June 27th, the majority of the clergy had joined them, as well as 47 nobles. The royal party had no choice but to give in to this new assembly. As large military forces began to arrive in Paris and Versailles, and more people rose to support the National Assembly, the French Revolution was set to begin. The National Assembly, known as the National Constituent Assembly, worked tirelessly in Versailles to create a constitution for France. The Assembly then went into a non-stop session so they would not be evicted from their meeting place. As military forces continued to arrive, mainly consisting of foreign mercenaries, the people feared the king was planning to act against the assembly and broke out into open rebellion. Rioting, looting, and mobs covered the streets of Paris. On July 14, 1789, the mobs of Paris, desperate to arm themselves, descended on the Bastille, and the French Revolution began. The revolution quickly spread across France as militias formed, arming themselves against foreign invasion, burning down and looting the homes of the nobility. Many nobles fled France in fear of the growing revolution and aggression towards them. This was known as the Great Fear. On August 4th, 1789, the National Constituent Assembly abolished feudalism and the privileges of the nobles and clergy. On August 26, 1789, the Assembly published the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, a statement of democratic principles, but was not a legally binding constitution. The Declaration was a statement of the freedoms all should have that are universally valid, such as freedom of speech, equal opportunity, and a representative government. Over the next year, the National Constituent Assembly continued to work on the Constitution as the revolution raged on. On October 5th, 1789, 7,000 women marched to Versailles, driven by high bread prices and the economic conditions. The mob was armed with cannons and various weapons, demanding the king, along with his family, moved to Paris. When they faced resistance, the mob stormed the palace, killing several guards till the king gave in. On October 6th, the royal family moved to Paris. After living in Paris for over a year, King Louis XVI, being frightened for his life and his family's, decided to flee France for the Austrian border. On the night of June 20th, 1791, the royals snuck out of Paris dressed as servants. They, however, didn't get too far. The next day they were recognized, arrested, and brought back to Paris, where the king and queen were held under guard. On September 1st, 1791, the National Constituent Assembly finished its first written constitution. After years of debates, the assembly came to a compromise, establishing a constitutional monarchy, leaving Louis XVI as little more than a figurehead. King Louis was then forced to swear an oath to the Constitution, and on September 30th, 1791, the National Constituent Assembly adjourned its final session. However, not all in the assembly agreed with the final result. Influential radicals such as Maximilien Robespierre began campaigning for a more republican government and the trial of King Louis XVI, leading the revolution down a bloodier path.